Hello and welcome to another Squeakerchimp tutorial, and today I'm going to show you how to make these beads. These are paper beads. I'm going to show you how to roll them, I'm going to show you how to colour them, and then I'm going to show you how to glaze them. And this is a bit of a different technique to beads that you might normally roll. You may have tried this before, but it may be something completely new to you. I just think it gives a really unique finish to them. Something a bit different from rolling beads that have already perhaps got the pattern on them. So these beads are going to start life as just white plain paper beads. So this is probably going to be a 3-step video. I'm going to show you the first part of the shape of the beads, the rolling of the beads. Then part 2 will be the painting of the beads, and then the last bit I will show you how to glaze the beads. So if you want to skip to any of those sections, then please do. I will make sure that I put them as part 1, part 2, part 3. So if you want to just skip ahead, you can do. Otherwise, just follow us through the whole process. Thanks very much. Okay, so in order to make these beads, we are going to need some supplies. The first thing that we're going to need is we're going to need our paper bead strips. And I will go through these in a bit more detail with you in a minute, but this is the strip that we're going to use. You'll need glue, and this is just super tacky PVA style glue in a needle nose bottle. It doesn't have to be, you can use whatever you've got. You're going to need a paper bead roller. The one I've got here is a 3mm roller, or a I think it's an 1/8 in inches, a 1/8 inch roller. And you'll need some scissors because we're going to cut the paper bead strips out with scissors today. You'll need some cocktail sticks like so to hold the beads whilst we're painting them. And then we will be moving on to painting the beads, and we're going to be using, for this today, I'm going to be using these watercolour brushes, just because they are really easy and nice and convenient to use. Now, you don't have to have watercolour brush pens. If you have just watercolour paints, you could use that. Acrylics won't work in exactly the same way, but when we get to that part, which will be the second part of the tutorial, you will see what I mean. And the watercolour brush comes with one of these paint brushes, which has got a reservoir for water in. So we're going to use one of those, and then you're going to need some glaze of your choice. My personal preference is this glaze by Vallejo. I think that's how you pronounce it, Vallejo? Don't know, but this is my personal preference. It's quite a runny glaze, and I personally prefer to paint it on. So this is the glaze that we're going to use today, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to glaze these beads, because it's going to be using a little bit of a different technique to what you may have done before, and I'm going to be adding some bits to my glaze just to give you an idea of things that you can do that is a bit outside of the normal box. So that's that, and yeah, I think that's about it. I think that's all we need. I'm sure we might need something else, but I will tell you about that as we go. So, right, without further ado, I'm going to clear the decks and we will get down to the first part. Okay, so for this part of the tutorial, I'm going to show you how I make the actual paper beads themselves. And I printed a paper bead template onto an A4 sheet of paper, which is your normal letter size piece of paper that goes in your printer. It's just normal printer copy of paper. If you are in America, it's a little bit bigger than your letter size paper, but it's about the same size-ish. And as you can see, when I put this through the printer, my printer decided that it was actually going to take 2 sheets in at once and print it on both sheets, which was really annoying. But I thought, you know what, I'm not going to waste it, because for me, paper beads is all about using up things, recycling things. So all I did was I turned my sheet over and I stuck it back through the printer. And so on this side, I've got the actual bead templates. But on this side, I've kind of got half of one. So I'm just going to show you how I cut it out, because a few people have come up with questions about these bead templates, that sometimes you get these gaps on the end. Can you see them? Where the printer doesn't quite go to the end. My printer, it doesn't matter what settings I change, it will not print to the end. But do you know what? I'm not going to worry about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to imagine where my lines are. So for this one, I'm going to imagine where my line would be had it have gone straight on. And I'm just going to cut right up. And I know some people really like cutting with a guillotine or with a paper trimmer, and that's fine. You can do that. But I find for this shape bead, and because I'm not doing loads and loads of them, I find just cutting them with scissors is fine. Now this part of the bead goes straight because for this part of the bead it creates a tube. So I'm just going to cut straight. Okay, and then I'm going to turn the paper around, and again I'm going to cut straight here until I get to here, and then this is where my bead starts to taper back down again. So we're making a sort of barrel shaped bead. It's a kind of hybrid between a barrel and a bicone. And again, I'm not going to worry about what's on the end. I'm just going to chop. So I'm going to move those two bits out the way, and I've now got my two strips. Now, as you can see on which strip? So on some of these strips, they have got these extra lines on them. Can you see? Both sides have got print lines on them. And I thought, well, do you know what? I'm actually going to use those. So if we look at my original beads, you can see that at the edges, there's bits. I don't know if you can see. But you'll see what I mean when I roll the first one, like that dark grey line. And you can see that on some of them, it's more obvious. So this one's more obvious. Let me get this one out. This one. There's a dark grey line rolling around it, and then there's a line there. I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to add that. I'm just going to keep that in as part of my decoration. So I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm just going to keep that in. Right, so let's roll the first one. I think we'll go with this one. So I'm going to start and roll from this end. And the first part of the bead is a tube bead. And if you want to know more information about rolling a tube bead, then please check out my tutorial on how to roll the perfect tube bead. I will put a link in the box above or just above this. So now we're getting to our tapered bit. So I'm just going to make sure that my bead... So this bit isn't really about making the paper bead because there are lots of tutorials about making paper beads, and I've got some as well. Take my glue. I'm just going to stick some glue on here. Please check out my other YouTube videos if you want a bit more of an in-depth video on making paper beads. And I'm going to stick my bead down. Wipe away the excess glue. Sometimes I just wipe it round, like so. One bead done. And that's what I mean about that dark line. I can see I've got a bit of it showing through, and there's a bit of it there showing through, but I don't mind that at all. It's all just going to add to the nature of the bead. So there we go. So for the next part of the tutorial, I'm going to make another couple of these beads, and then I will come back and then I will show you the colouring part of this tutorial. See you in part 2.